Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today we're going to be doing another film journey, and this time I got my good buddy Ken at MidLevelMedia. How are you, Ken?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah.
I was a little surprised, by all the great people I've seen you have on here that you would, come to me. I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can live up to that kind of film knowledge that I've seen on this show. So hopefully I can do a decent job here today.
Well, I think you can add to it. So, I mean, I'm very appreciative of you coming on and accepting the invite, and I've been loving what you've been doing on the channel, and there's been a lot of recent videos that I've just been having a blast with. And I know recently you just put this out, so this will come out later, but we just talked about this simultaneously.
Yep.
The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance on 4K. I am so stoked
right here.
this. Yeah.
I just watched that for the first time back in January because I'm doing my theme months now, and I did Western month in January. So I watched a lot of great movies because that was a genre that's kind of evaded me my whole life. And I was like, I need to jump into this. That was a great film. I loved it.
It's incredible. It's probably my favorite John Wayne film. So
yeah, I didn't watch a lot of his stuff. I'd say of the ones I did. I love Stagecoach too, but that was a very young John Wayne. So but yeah, it was a great performance.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it in 4K. I'm glad that Paramount is putting out 4Ks now. So
but I wonder if that's going to be a thing with them going forward. I wonder if that's going to be everyone, because I think they might have announced a couple of other ones that aren't 4Ks, but hopefully we see it more often.
Yeah, it's a positive trend. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this before we jump into the film journey we're seeing a lot more 4K movement on all fronts of studios and then also boutique labels, and I'm here for it as long as there's a good check and balance system that's going on with it, and I'm sure a lot of people know what we want, but all at the same time. So
yeah, absolutely.
Before we jump into this whole thing, what have you been watching? I know it's been Hitchcock month.
Hitchcock, I've watched, for it being Hitchcock month, I've watched a surprisingly low amount of Hitchcock movies. And it's not that I haven't been enjoying the ones I've been watching, but I'm going to dive into that Hitchcock box set probably this weekend. But I have watched Rear Window, and I watched North by Northwest. Nice. Did reviews for those. And I watched Saboteur the other night, the first one in the Hitchcock box set. But I've got a lot of stuff I still need to watch, like Notorious, and I got The Lady Vanishes recently. Excellent. And I'm trying to get a few more, but also I'm running out of time, so I don't know how much more I'm actually going to be able to get to.
It's only a little bit left of May.
Yeah, we only got 13 days as it stands right now, but I knew it was going to be tough because I try to keep up with my new buys, also the new releases, and I watched Beverly Hills Cop 2 last night, so I'm trying to keep it's a balance with all those, and I've been watching the Jurassic Park movies with my family also.
I actually just got those myself.
The first 3.
Yep, those are the ones I like. So
yeah,
I have a soft spot for 3. Just saying. It came out.
I'm curious. We're going to get on 3 soon because we watched the first Jurassic Park a couple nights ago with the kids, and they really enjoyed it, which is always fun when you get to experience those movies you grew up with your kids, and they seem to like it as much as you do. And then we watched The Lost World last night. I really love The Lost World.
I do too.
It's definitely not as good as the first one.
No, not even.
But it has some, I would argue it has some better like set piece moments in it, I guess what you would say. Like it's got some really cool sequences and stuff with it. Especially that RV going over the ledge. Like I've always remembered that when I was a kid with her landing on the glass and it all cracking and stuff. And the raptors in the fields, and
the raptors in the field. I've always hated tall grasses. Like I don't know about this because if I see a tail, I'm out. So
yeah, there's some cool stuff in that movie that I appreciate. And it does what a good sequel should do. It's bigger, it introduces more dinosaurs, and it just feels, feels like a bigger, grander sequel, but
And then you
still
just go
not
to
as good of
San
a movie.
Francisco, right? And then you
Yeah. Then they go to San Francisco. That's the perfect, climax of that film.
yeah, a nice King Kong node, like like a little homage to it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, three. I mean, I grew up with those films, so three. I remember having the VHS and always coming home after school and like watching it, and
That's funny.
it's a horror. It's a horror movie, right? It's definitely like more or less kind of that's what we're going for a little bit, but I definitely think it's one of the weakest ones, but at the same time I like it more than the Jurassic World movies, but that's just me.
Yeah. I have not seen 3. I don't know when the last time I watched a movie was. It might have been the theaters. And I was 16. I was 16 when that movie came out. I remember seeing it in theaters and I was like, I don't like this that much. And then I don't know how many times I returned to it. I may have watched it once. So it'll be interesting to go back to it.
There's a lot of memes.
I love Sam Neill, but yeah, that's the Alan Raptor.
Alan.
I always have seen that. But Jurassic World I had fun with it when I saw it in theaters. I hated Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, I didn't like
Absolutely hated it. I think the beginning of Fallen Kingdom is really cool. But then once they get to that, it's like Haunted Mansion with dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't on board for that turn.
Yeah. We'll see how Dominion is. So, yeah, excellent recent watches. I'm glad that you're finding a little bit of a balance for Hitchcock and some recent releases.
I also watched a film. I can bring this up to. It's called Girls Nights Out, recently released by Arrow Video, and it's about a teddy bear.
Oh yeah, I remember.
A teddy bear slasher movie, and it's okay. I'm not going to say it's great or anything, but
well,
it was a decent watch.
It's a slasher movie. Most slasher movies are okay, right?
Yeah, from 1982.
Oh, lovely year too. I those 80s slashers. Those are classics. But I actually got something to show you that I've actually picked up thanks to Hitchcock Month. I got the Alfred Hitchcock Hour on DVD.
Is that his TV show?
That's his TV show, yeah.
Nice. I didn't know if that had a solid physical media release. That's cool.
Well, so what I did with this was actually a commenter on my channel talked about it and was like, this is the one to look at, right?
Yeah.
So this one is, I don't know exactly what, but anyway, they pointed me to this one. This is fabulous and from Mantle. I don't know. It's Universal though. So like whatever it is, it's a region 2. It's a region 2. But yeah, I'm just excited to jump into it. Obviously, it's a DVD because it's a TV series. But yeah, I'm excited to jump into it eventually. So.
It'd definitely be cool if they did all those. I don't know who would do it, but if they did them all on Blu-ray or something over here at some point.
Maybe something like Imprint. Maybe I don't know.
Possibly.
I feel like they would cover it. Possibly.
Got this. I feel like I have it. I was looking for it and I couldn't find it, but I've got this 20 film Alfred Hitchcock collector's set. It's on DVD and it's like all his movies from the 30s, like maybe a couple from the 20s also. I don't know how far back Hitchcock goes. I think he goes into the 20s.
He's in the 20s, yeah.
Mm-hmm. 20s, 30s, and 40s films, and it's like 20 of them, but they're like on 3 discs. So the compression is they look horrible. But I think I watched The Skin Game on there from 1931.
That's not a good movie.
It was not. I was so bored watching that film. So yeah, but
yeah, there's some.
I think it had The Lady Vanishes on there though, but I think Mill Creek put that one out too.
Okay, long ago. All right. Well, those are some excellent releases, and also if you're not familiar, people who are watching this a little bit later in May, but May is Hitchcock Month over on Ken's channel, and so obviously there's a new theme each month, right?
Yep.
And so the revolving one is coming right around the corner. So, but do you already revealed that one yet?
I have not. I usually don't do it until sometimes I don't even decide what it's going to be until like 2 days before.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't reveal it till it's the actual month because I don't want to take away from if I announce something that might be more exciting than what I'm actually doing. Everybody's gonna be asking, I can't wait for this to start. Screw what you're doing now.
Lied. You heard it here, folks. he says it here, and then he's like, no, it's not that. So
Yeah, pretty
no,
much.
I appreciate that, but no, I mean, for everyone watching it at home, I just keep a lookout on the next theme month. But yeah, I've been following along on the Hitchcock month. I did some Hitchcock last month myself, and that was a lot of fun because I watched a lot of his silent pictures. So he's still
He's
on
got
my
a lot.
yeah, he's got a lot.
Got a lot.
Well, I think it's now time for the film journey for people who are at home watching this. I'm sure you're not too new to this, but if you are, what we do is we have a guest on, and usually we go through the film journey from their earliest memories all the way up to where they're at now. And so, with that being said, let's jump into that first question. What is your earliest memory with film?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. It's hard not to say some kind of a cartoon movie. And I remember seeing The Little Mermaid in theaters when I was a kid. So that might be the earliest memory I have with an actual movie. I
Any
don't
scary
remember
sequences?
watching, huh?
Like Ursula, did that scare you at all?
I don't remember it really scaring me. But yeah, I'd probably say The Little Mermaid, see it in theaters. I don't know. I don't remember watching a lot of, like, when I was a 3 or 4. I do have a pretty decent memory as to back when I was like 3 or 4 years old, which is when I would have saw The Little Mermaid. I don't remember watching a lot of movies at home, I guess, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I would probably say Little Mermaid
Little Mermaid.
is the
What
earliest.
what would you say would be like that next step, like in your, I mean, I guess,
Probably then we'll go into probably Ninja Turtles, watching the first Ninja Turtles and the
Mhm.
second one, Secret of the Ooze.
Oh man,
I remember
Love
watching
them.
those so much. Also, E.T. is very early on for me. It's still one of my favorite movies. Um, and Trying to think, Hook. I remember
Oh yeah,
watching it
yeah.
at a very young age. The Batman movies, Tim Burton Batman movies, Beetlejuice. Tim Burton was probably a pretty formidable part of me growing up. Um, Edward Scissorhands, all that kind of stuff. I remember watching all those and all the animated stuff as well, like
Right.
Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, and I've memories of watching all those movies. The Rescuers
Oh
Down
man,
Under. I remember
that's yeah.
watching those
Those aren't talked about
pretty
as much.
young.
I feel like they need a little bit more love.
Yeah, I remember watching them all the time. I remember the preview for the Rescuers Down Under because they used some kind of new like technology like for the animation. I remember they were like really promoting that before it came out as like
Hmm.
something big. But yeah, it feels like when Aladdin came out, that like changed the whole animation scene, and that's all that people cared about. It felt like they were really, hyping that one up, and the Lion King and all that stuff kind of took the attention away from all the previous animated films.
Was there any like physical? I know you said outside of the home was kind of those earlier memories. Do you have any like early memories of anything like renting or anything, or where like maybe you had a first VHS or something?
Yeah, I mean, we had a pretty good VHS collection. Like my parents weren't collectors like I am or anything like that. My kids could care less about movies nowadays, but if I was their age and I had a parent that had the collection that I have, I would have been all over that.
Hmm. You're
Um,
like no touching. You
but
have to
that's
ask me
just
first.
the era that we grew up in.
Right.
But yeah, I remember having all the clamshells for all the Disney movies and all the VHS tapes. We had a pretty good sizable shelf. How I watched a lot of movies growing up was my grandparents. They would go to Blockbuster when the new releases would come out, and they would tape those on the 6-hour VHS tapes.
Yep, I remember those
So
6 hour ones.
when I would go to my grandparents, like I would look, they would have cabinets full of those VHS tapes, 6 hours, and they would have 3 movies on each one of them. And I would pop them in, and that's where I got, a lot of movie watching done when I was a kid.
This is bringing me back because my dad still has those 6 hour VHS. Because he still has a VHS DVD player. One of them records still, and he
Yeah,
still makes me like mess with it. If anything's like, he's like, I don't know how to mess with this. Like, he calls me and he asks me to come over and fix it for him. I'm like, Dad, nobody does this anymore. What do you do? So, Yeah.
Yeah, and that so yeah, I watched a lot of movies like that. I would borrow movies from them. And then when we got because I grew up kind of in a rural area, like we didn't have cable until I was like 11 or 12, so we didn't really have a lot of the movie channels and stuff like that. But when we did, I started doing the same thing. I would start taping movies I saw on the movie channels off of there on the VHS tape. So I would collect a lot of movies just doing that. I just thought that was the coolest thing. Oh, I get to own these movies for free, basically.
Have some of those commercials in there.
Yeah, have the commercial. Yeah, I definitely had stuff taped off of TV as well.
Did you was there any movies in particular that you remember recording that like stand out?
Oh, I'm trying to think. There were definitely, I think the Jungle to Jungle I remember watching on taped. I was just trying to remember what I had it with. I used to have all this stuff down. I'm getting older. My memory's fading away.
That's with Chevy Chase, right?
That is actually, I think I had that one on VHS too, but that was Man of the House with Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Yes.
No, Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase. That's that. Yeah.
Was in Man of the House, and then Jungle to Jungle was
Tim Allen, right?
Tim Allen and the kid from Detroit Rock City. He grew up to be in Detroit. I can't remember his name, but yeah, that I remember that being on a tape for some reason. That's the only one that came to mind. But yeah, a lot of movies I used to tape on there. I remember taping the Nothing to Lose with Tim Robbins and Martin Lawrence. Probably Bad Boys was on there as well.
Okay. So you were like in your teens when Bad Boys? Were you like recording that?
No, I was pretty young when I saw Bad Boys. This was probably happening when I was 11 or 12. Broken Arrow I used to watch a lot. I don't know if you know that movie with John Travolta, Christian Slater. I used to be big into the 90s action stuff, Con Air and all that. But 80s action is actually a huge gap for me, which is why I'm just now discovering films like Beverly Hills Cop 2, which I've never seen.
It's been a long time since I've seen that, so I'm glad that the 4K is finally out, so I can rewatch it, because I have the first, which I enjoy. But I remember you saying in your more recent video is that you like this one better a little bit more than one.
I said I heard them say that it was better because I'd never seen it before when I made the video. Right. I've seen it now. What I can say is I like it slightly better than the first, but I'm still not a huge fan of the franchise in general.
Yeah.
They're okay.
They're all right.
I grew up with Bad Boys and Con Air and the Face Off and all those. I like that, I guess, the 90s style of action better than I do the 80s. Yeah, I don't know. It just works better for me. Like the Lethal Weapon movies didn't really do it for me that much either when I watched those earlier this year.
Did you watch I
did like 48 Hours though with Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte. I thought that was good. I like that one.
I still have that one on the shelf, which I haven't seen. So, but I am looking forward to that one. Now, a side thought of that when you were saying the Lethal Weapon, I'm assuming you've seen some other Shane Black films, like Nice Guys or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh, I love Nice Guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to rewatch that one forever because I haven't seen it since it first came out. But yeah, I was a big fan of that one.
Yeah, they're fun. But I've always liked Shane Black's kind of those buddy cop films are my bread and butter.
I have not seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I did Buddy Cop Month, and that was on my list to watch. Like I have it on Blu-ray, and I did not get to it. So
watch it at Christmas time. It's a Christmas movie, so
Christmas movie, just like Iron Man 3.
Just like Iron Man 3.
He's always got some Christmas in his movies.
He's got Christmas in his movies. I guess that next transition would be, I guess in the teenage and teenage to young adult years. What stood out to you?
My teenage years is where I really started to, I guess, hone in on my love for horror movies. Because I'd say it's probably still my favorite genre for the most part. So that's when I was watching the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Halloweens. And this is where I can go into the video store stuff. I remember my, mom would take me to the video store like on Friday nights, and I would always gravitate towards the horror section. And I think over maybe a year and a half, I rented out the entire horror section and watched everything. Like I remember watching the Critters movies, the Leprechaun films,
Mhm.
Puppet Master, The Howling, just all the different horror franchises, but also the main ones. For some reason, though, I don't remember watching Halloween from the video store. So I don't know if my video store just didn't have Halloween, but I didn't get into Halloween until maybe a couple years after I discovered Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Huh.
So that was kind of strange. And I got into it because my uncle actually gifted me, because he knew I was into horror movies, and he gifted me a Halloween 4 on Christmas, which is a weird gift to give on Christmas, but I'll always remember
The
it.
Return of Michael Myers.
And it was the Return of Michael Myers, and that was the first Halloween movie I ever saw. And I was like, I got to see the first three. And then we went to Walmart, and there was a triple pack of all three of them. So I got them, and then I loved the first two, and I got to the third one. I'm like, "Where's Michael?" And
What's going on with this one?
And I hated it, and I didn't watch it again until recently, and I love it now. I think it's awesome. You got all those masks up there?
I just got the pumpkin.
Yeah. I love that movie now. I think it's awesome.
We all do.
But when I was a kid, I was like, "What the hell is this? Like, this is
right?
something wrong with this." And then I watched 5, and I think Curse was out by then. Curse might have been coming out in the theaters by the time I caught up, or maybe it was H2O. I can't remember, but
yeah.
But yeah, horror was real huge for me teenage years. That's when I started buying VHS tapes for my own collection. It was probably when I was like 12 or 13. I would use my allowance money to go to like the Suncoast videos,
Suncoast,
Walmart, and
I miss Suncoast,
all those places. Yeah, the Suncoast was awesome. That's where I remember getting my Nightmare on Elm Street DVD set, which I think it was like 2004. But yeah, it's a lot of horror movies and comedy. I also love comedy. I definitely watched a lot of the Kevin Smith movies. Liked a lot, like Clerks and Mallrats, and the Adam Sandler, the Jim Carreys, all that stuff. I grew up with for sure and loved. But yeah, I still got a lot of those VHS tapes over there in the closet. I need to do like a VHS tape collection video. It'd probably be.
I'm actually kind of jealous of all these people. Like VHS is kind of coming back a little bit with some, especially.
What is it? Is it coming back? What is the deal with that?
I don't know. So
I went to a Half Price Books yesterday, and I don't know if you have any of those in your area.
We do.
I went over to the VHS tapes, and usually they're like 75 cents, $1. These VHS tapes were like $7 to $8 in the Half Price Books. They were more than the Blu-rays and the DVDs. And some of them were sealed, but some of them weren't. They were just like regular VHS tapes with a little bit of damage and stuff on them.
Still sealed VHS tapes out there?
Oh, yeah. I found some at the Goodwill. I think I found the Godfather sealed at a Goodwill a couple of years ago. And I would get them back in the day. I don't really grab them too much anymore.
Right.
But like 3 or 4 years ago, I was grabbing some at the Goodwills and flea markets I would find for cheap, but I'm not paying no $8
no
for a VHS tape.
Like it's all decor.
Maybe if it was really cool, but
yeah,
I'm not going to watch it. Like if there's a 4K or Blu-ray, I'm not popping in the VHS. Like, come on.
I know that like horror, especially, I mean, that's where a lot of the VHS love is. And I completely get that, because a lot of people grew up on it. That's what they remember. And, sometimes that schlocky and also bad kind of quality kind of fits the mold a little bit.
Yeah, I'd get that.
Yeah. So
that's why like a couple of years ago or it's been 5 years now, maybe 6, but I gave away I sold all my DVDs. So I was like, I'm going to go full on into digital. That didn't last for very long. So I had like 300 or 400 DVDs, and I sold like a bunch of them to Half Price Books and got like $150 or something, which is pretty decent for what I had. But definitely, I paid way more for it. But the only DVDs I kept were my horror DVDs, and I kept them because I felt like I wouldn't be able to find them again, and I just wanted to keep them in my collection. And I do think that horror, I can watch that on DVD. I didn't upgrade the Halloween movies to Blu-ray until that 4K set came out last year.
I didn't upgrade mine either. I mean, I had Halloween 1 like on a studio Blu-ray.
Yeah, Halloween 1.
That's about
it. Same with Nightmare on Elm Street. I still rocking all the DVDs. I won't buy that Blu-ray set. I'm waiting for them to do the Scream Factor. I'm waiting for them to do that Scream Factor. I've got the first one on Blu-ray, but I don't own any of the other ones. And thankfully, they took care of the Friday the 13th franchise for me.
Yes, and I have that right there.
Did that beautiful box set, and I need them to do that for Freddy next.
Yes, I think we should definitely hopefully see that coming in the next few years. But yeah, kind of wrapping back to those VHSs and DVDs. When you were getting those DVDs, like I guess, I guess you're getting VHSs first, right? So when did that transition happen?
So I'm 36. I'll be 37 this year. I'm getting very old.
I'm about to be 30, so not too far behind. So
I wish I could tell you it was all uphill from there, but it's not.
I got sciatica, so I already know a little bit. So.
It gets worse. The pains get worse and more frequent. I feel pretty decent, I guess. But yeah, so it's weird to think about, but I guess at one point I was buying VHS and DVD simultaneously because not everything was available on DVD, and it was kind of seen as that time, like, okay, DVD's like 4K and VHS is Blu-ray basically. Exactly. So it's like you're not going to buy everything on 4K. Some stuff unless you feel like you can buy on Blu-ray. So I feel like for the most part, like horror, I probably bought on VHS. And then like maybe some new stuff I would get on DVD, like the superhero movies that I felt like I needed to watch like on a better format. Like I remember buying Spider-Man 2002, Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff on DVD first. I think I bought, trying to think about the first DVDs. This is probably 2002. It was like Signs, Lord of the Rings, Spider-Man, Orange County, Jack Black. I love that movie.
Yeah, I haven't heard about Orange County in forever. So
yeah, they just did a Blu-ray of that one. Like that one just came to Blu-ray. And I watched it the other night and it's still great. Love that movie. So yeah, probably, I was buying them both at the same time. So it's probably like 2001, 2002. I was collecting VHS and DVDs, and VHS probably dropped off shortly after, I would say.
Yeah.
But I also used to be a big pro wrestling fan.
I also used to be a pro wrestling fan. So I think we can go somewhere here.
Yeah. So when you went to Suncoast, I remember going to Suncoast a lot, and I would go to the horror section and I would go to the wrestling section.
I would too.
I would buy a lot of my horror tapes there, and I would buy a lot of my wrestling tapes there. Just old pay-per-views and stuff I wanted to see. So those are like the VHS tapes and stuff that I still have a lot of in there. I've got some random comedies here and there. Like I think I got The Mask on VHS.
I remember that.
Most of my VHS collection in the closet over there is horror, and there's some wrestling tapes in there. Nice. I actually have like pay-per-views from wrestling from the late 90s to like I would say the early 2000s, maybe 2003, 2004 that I taped.
Oh, wow.
So I have like maybe 60, 70 pay-per-views back there on tape, which became useless when they came out with the WWE Network. But
right,
I think that folded into like Peacock now or something.
I don't know. I kind of gave up on wrestling around like 2006, 2007 time, and then like I've popped in and out, so I know a little bit about what's going on, but like AEW and stuff like that, I kind of keep my tabs on, but I don't really watch it. But I definitely watched the WCW, the Monday Night Wars, all those.
Yeah, the heyday was
all
like 96 to 99, 2000, 2001. That was all like when I was in high school and buddies would get together, we all throw in some money, get the pay-per-views. Like those are the good old days.
Yeah, it's bringing me back because like that's the funny thing is most people probably don't know this about me, but I have a lot of random wrestling knowledge in my head. People like it's like, oh yeah, it's like Rowdy Piper. To me, it's like I didn't see they live until like years after me knowing who Roddy Piper is.
Yeah,
like that's how it was.
Same here. I didn't see They Live until 3 or 4 years ago. It was a recent watch for me.
Same, more or less. I think 3 or 4 or 5, something like that for me. But I was like, what? Roddy Piper's in this? And it's like I've known him for however long, and and then there's insert a million wrestlers and wrestling moves and pay-per-views and all that stuff. So
I used to rewatch. I spent way too much time. I probably could have watched a lot of good movies. The time I spent just rewatching pay-per-views that I loved.
There's some good moments in there. Also some moments that like you watch it again and you're like, oh, I like this back in the day. That's how I feel about some of it.
I am glad that I have some of them on tape in there, even though the tapes are probably rotted or something. They probably have water damage and stuff like that. I haven't really gone through them in like 10 years, but that I feel like they would take some stuff out that they didn't think was appropriate
Oh yeah,
anymore on DVD releases or Blu-ray releases. And the whole Chris Benoit thing, like he was
yeah.
my
Pretty much.
favorite wrestler,
I
like
loved
for a long
how he
time.
wrestled. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously not him as a person, but I know where you're going. He's a great wrestler.
As far as like wrestling, not his personality wasn't the best, but
Yeah,
as
very
far as a wrestler, like he
vanilla.
was one of my favorites to watch. I loved him. And then when that whole thing happened, that was probably the catalyst that kind of turned me off of wrestling for a little bit, because I just didn't feel like it was the same after that. But then they would try to cut him out of everything. I remember they were showing pay-per-views and they would cut like his matches out. And I'm like, you can't cut out the main event of, WrestleMania here. But
Yeah,
I don't know. It kind of just felt weird.
yeah, I completely agree with that, and that was definitely a weird time in my life. Thinking
Yeah.
back because I think that around that time I was definitely kind of edging away from it as well. So, um, well, wrestling, this was a fun detour. I didn't expect this. So, well, that's awesome. I guess going on from the Suncoast days, like, did you have a Sam Goody where you were at, or any of those?
I think we did, but I don't ever remember going there. It was, I'm trying to think all the places. So we had like,
Hastings?
no, we had, I'm trying to think all the places I used to buy stuff from. I think at Suncoast and FYE. I don't remember
Yeah,
when we
FYE.
got those, but we still have FYEs. But I think I remember going there as well. But yeah, I would go to the mall all the time. I was always really excited to go there and, get some new CDs and
CDs
VHS
were also
tapes
a
and
thing for me.
blow all my money on that kind of stuff. And
Now,
yeah,
when
it
you
was
got,
a fun time.
I have a segue here that's connected though, but when you were like getting your first job or something, were you one of those people, very much like myself, where you got your money and then you more or less turned around and spent it at these places?
Yeah, pretty much. When I started working, I think my parents made me pay for my car insurance, and I had to pay for gas, but beyond that, that was pretty much, all I had to spend my money on. So I would get use the rest about what I wanted.
Yeah. Yep. That brings me back. So I'm glad that there's a little bit of responsibility in there. I'm glad your parents helped you
Yeah,
out. There's
they
like, hey,
definitely did. Well, they gave me the car, so at least I didn't have to pay like a car payment or anything. But they said you got to pay the insurance on it.
in the
I was
gas.
like, all right, and the gas. I was like, okay,
That's
I
fair.
can do
That's
that. I
fair.
can pull that.
Yeah.
I can pull
um,
that on my cart pushing bagger salary.
I was also a bagger, so this is all going back. I was actually the best bagger. I won't say too much for the internet community, but I was definitely, back in the day. I won a bagging competition for state, and that's all I'll say. So,
I didn't go that far into it, but
well,
I
I
can
was
look.
pushed
I
into it.
consider myself
I
a
was
pretty good
I
bagger
was
until I got on
pushed.
here tonight with you, and
I
I didn't
was
even know about the bagger
I
competitions.
was pushed into it. Like that's a whole story, and that's a really fun story though. And
Yeah.
also there's a wrestling things involved as well, because I had to throw the first pitch at a minor league baseball game. And they stuck a microphone in my face, and I said, so what's your goal? And I said, well, you see, what I'm gonna do, brother, is I'm gonna put the eggs on the bottom and the bread on the top. And then everyone loved it. So
I don't guess Nathan Jones wasn't around at that point, was he? You
he
couldn't say,
wasn't.
"I am Nathan Jones.
I
I'm here to bag
well,
your
I did
groceries."
know about Nathan Jones at that time, but I didn't associate as like. And I also don't think the baseball crowd would have like, who's this? But
He was such a blip. Like he was only there for like 4 months, I think. But I think the time they spent building up that guy was, I think he was there for a shorter amount of time when he actually debuted.
Right. He's definitely more known for Troy and Mad Max and all the other.
Oh, I completely forgot he was in Mad Max. He was in Mad Max. I
Yeah.
remember that now.
Just all
Troy, I've not seen him forever. I wish they would come out with a 4K of that one.
great movie. I hope they keep the plane in though. There's a plane in the background in one of the shots.
I didn't know about that either.
Yeah. Okay. So back on
Going back to, I want to go back to the bagging real quick.
Okay.
Doesn't it anger you when you go to the grocery store and you see these kids now and how they bag groceries, and it's just ridiculous. I know it does me.
I definitely go to the self checkouts now to avoid that interaction.
I'll straight up say, all right, dude, go on. I can bag my own groceries. I'll just start
I've done
bagging
that.
my own.
I've done that a lot. Well, there's one person who I still live around the area that I did this, and they still work at the same place. And I always go to that person's checkout lane, and I'm like, just talk about how whatever's going on in life. And I just go around to the bagging sections, like, just send it over. I can do it quicker than anyone in this.
Yeah.
like everyone leave me alone. Like
So I've won bagging competitions. Get out of my way.
Get out of my way. I have an embroidered shirt that I have no idea where it's at that says the best bagger. Oh boy. It's not on my resume, everyone.
There you go.
But yeah, bagging. Who knew? Wrestling and bagging.
Yeah, we can detour from the wrestling and bagging talk for now.
But I guess what that next step for you was that getting that VHS and those DVDs, was that like the first time where like, I'm going to start collecting a lot more than like just like going to the video store or whatever? You just wanted to have something.
I definitely loved the thought of owning my favorite movies, but I didn't buy everything. I wouldn't consider myself like a collector in that days. I just bought the stuff that I liked. I definitely didn't buy stuff like I do now. I wouldn't like blind buy a bunch of things. If I knew I loved the movie, I would pick it up at like Myers or Walmart or Target or, wherever they sold movies. But by the time I gave away all my DVDs, I would say I had like 300 or 400 DVDs in my collection. So it was a decent collection, but I definitely, didn't start collecting like I do now until 5 or 6 years ago. So I wish that I did, because I know a lot of people on here that have been collecting a long time that have some really cool DVD editions and stuff from back in the day. And it's like, I wish I had all that stuff, but I just don't, unless I find it at like a Goodwill and I snatch it up there. But
I've more or less abandoned DVD unless it's like TV shows that aren't, available on Blu-ray or something. But no, it is interesting because like I think I had a similar path with having about probably 300 or 400 DVDs before I really seriously started doing this. And it was all things that like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, all the things that I really, really love. Right. And didn't have to blind buy. But by the way, when did that transition? You said like 5 or 6 years ago.
I think a lot of it has to do with I've just always been kind of frugal with my money. A little tight. Like I'd never blown a lot of money.
Not a bad thing.
And I moved out of my house when I was pretty young, my parents' house. And, me and my wife bought a house together when I was like 20. So money was always a little, not tight, but I just, I had to be able to make sure I paid my bills, my mortgage and all that stuff. Then we had kids and that kind of came into it as well. But, the past few years, like I definitely have a job that, pays a little bit better now. And just as you get older, you become more, comfortable as far as like your living and living needs. And, I feel more comfortable blowing money on Blu-rays and 4Ks now than I did back in my 20s, I guess.
Sure.
But
do you remember that? Was there any catalyst that like got you started with like, I'm gonna like, was there any people or any like releases?
I mean,
that were
for sure, like the internet and being on Instagram and YouTube and stuff has definitely intensified it more than it probably would have been otherwise, because you see all these cool editions and stuff. Because I started getting on Instagram and probably back in 2016, 2017, and I was just like doing little movie reviews and showing off the Blu-rays and stuff that I did have. And then you start connecting with all these other people and they're showing off these really awesome editions. And I'm like, Arrow Video, what's that? Criterion, what are those?
What are that?
I'd never heard of any of that stuff before, like Scream Factory. I'm like, what's that? That's some awesome artwork. And then I started to look into it. And back in the day, like my first Scream Factories I bought were bought at Walmart. Like the Walmart used to have Scream Factories for like $10. So I got a lot of pretty cool stuff at Walmart for pretty cheap in the beginning. They just don't do that stuff a lot anymore.
No, sometimes Walmart will have some Scream Factories, or at least some of those Shout Selects I've seen there. But I mean, the sections are all dwindling from more or less all the retail stores. But
Yeah, they did a little run of some Shout Selects. I remember I went in there one day and they had like a spot where like they had 9 or 10 of them there. And then there was a time when they had a whole steelbook section. They had like a big 4K section. Now it's like you go in there and it's like rows and rows of DVDs. It's like we've gone backwards.
Everyone's on
Like,
DVD now. It's like, well,
what is going on in here?
Maybe I should have stuck with this. But then again, the Blu-ray market's all become Blu-ray and 4K more or less a boutique labels are the driving factors for. I would say more people are doing that with, at least with Blu-rays, right? With DVDs, obviously that's why Walmart still has all that. So because normal people are just going to be buying that. So
yeah, but definitely when I started seeing all that, I'd never bought a steel book before. Like I'd heard of steel books, but mostly from like video games and stuff like that. Because that's another thing. I was huge into video games for a very long time. I would say like from 2005 to maybe 2014, it was all about video games for me. Like I watch movies, I love movies, but I wasn't as into movies as I am right now. And I just kind of grew out of that with my kids and stuff. Because when you start to have less time to play it, it's a little bit different when you're like, I'm buying a movie that's an hour and a half versus I'm buying a game that takes 50 hours to beat. Like I don't have time for that.
Right.
So I just kind of gravitate more towards movies now because it's I can experience a story and have a whole experience in an hour and a half, 2 hours versus 60 hours. But I wish I had time for gaming. I mean, I do, the thought of it sounds good, but when I actually sit down with a controller, I just get tired now. But yeah, I was super into, I'd say like the Xbox 360 and PS3 era. So
were there any games in particular that like you played a lot of, put a lot of hours in?
I mean, as far as like, multiplayer, I was big into Halo and Call of Duty and Gears of War and all that stuff. But I played everything. Like I played games like I watch movies now, just all different types of stuff. I remember I loved BioShock, I played, and just all those big games, Red Dead Redemption and, the Grand Theft Auto games and God of War and the Uncharted games. Like I was into all of it. So.
Man, this is another, like we have similar paths again with games, because I
still have a lot of that. I probably have 150 Xbox 360 games in the closet over there. So I still have a lot of my gaming stuff. Even back to like Super Nintendo and Nintendo, I still have.
I just have my Nintendo 64 game.
Yeah, Nintendo 64 too.
That was my favorite system, and then I still have my PlayStation 2. That's all I have left. I've unfortunately gotten rid of the rest because I don't have time. I don't have time.
Yeah, it's hard. Like I see my kids now and they're, playing Fortnite and stuff. And I try to play with them a little bit. I hate Fortnite. It's
fair.
Awful.
We're older now. We don't need it like Fortnite.
And I'm like, yeah, this is terrible. But yeah, I was really big into gaming for a lot. That's why a lot of times when people will ask me, can't believe you haven't seen this and this and this and this and this and this.
Well,
like, I've always been a movie fan.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like I've seen a lot of movies, like compared to most people, like in my regular life. But when I get on here and start talking to people, I'm like, damn, do I have a lot of gaps? But yeah, I'm working to try to fill those in now.
Well, I mean, those theme months help, and I mean, none of us who are on the platform are helping with that. It was like, hey, watch this.
Yeah, so. Which I love. Like I even though like I know I have people comment all kinds of recommendations. It's like I know that I'm not going to get to it within a month or two, or maybe even a year or two. But I love hearing the recommendations, and I love hearing about different films and different stuff to watch. And definitely like when somebody keeps on telling you need to watch something over and over again, it's like eventually you're gonna watch it.
Just watching.
What is that?
Watching Bruges.
Oh, that's a cool addition of that. I didn't know what that was. I thought that was Brazil.
Definitely you can see the B there, but no, you've heard of In Bruges, right?
Yeah, that's it's the same guy that did 3 Billboards, right? I can't think of his name.
His first film, Martin McDonagh.
Yeah.
But it's incredible, and that release right there is from Second Sight out of the UK. So
yeah, it's a nice release. That's somebody that I'm getting into now as well, but that gets expensive for sure.
Yeah,
with the Second Sight.
Importing doesn't help.
Yeah, I dropped almost $100 on that Drive set, and then the Witch set that's coming out, I got pre-ordered
as well.
That's like
that's
60 or 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Witch is probably my favorite horror film of the 21st century, I would say.
I would agree. That's my favorite as well.
I
So
like stuff that scares me, especially with horror. Like, and it's hard when you've seen so much horror.
right.
So when you can find a good horror movie that actually creeps you out,
The
like I
deeper
remember
stuff.
watching that.
Yeah.
It's and it's just a, it's a great movie. They really capture that period piece well. And Robert Eggers is a phenomenal director. Now, I was a little disappointed in The Lighthouse, but I think I was
So
expecting a different movie
it's
than what
definitely
I
very
got.
wacky. So
I can realize it's greatness. I need to rewatch it. It's
it's
been a
good.
while. And I do really want to see The Northman, but I haven't
It's
got a chance to
that's
see
a
that
lot of
one.
fun, and you can definitely tell. I mean, like it's like a Braveheart mixed with a Robert Eggers film, and
Yeah.
with I mean, well, it's Hamlet, right? So Hamlet.
Yeah.
So, but I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah. So, I guess thinking about all those video game years, and then also thinking about where you're at now. Where has this kind of led you to where you're at now with collecting? Any current thoughts on the state of collecting or anything like that?
Um, as far as physical media, I feel like it's really weird when you talk about the state of physical media. I think on one hand, people are doom and gloom and it's getting ready to die and it's coming to an end. And on the other hand, I think there's just so much cool stuff coming out that it's impossible to say it's on its deathbed. It's like,
Right.
I talk about this stuff every single week, all the new releases, and it's like I always have so much to talk about. So how could anybody think that this stuff is coming to an end anytime soon? Now, when you go to Walmart or Targets, it's a different story. You can definitely notice that, but that's more mainstream. So I definitely see, physical media going more towards boutique and stuff like that in the near future, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I like collecting that stuff mostly anyway. But as far as where I'm at now on my film journey, I'm just trying to catch up. Like I said, I got a lot of gaps. I got a lot of stuff know I need to watch to just make me a more well-rounded film fan. And I'm enjoying the ride. There's a lot of people that's like say, I can't believe I've had people that say, you have a channel and you haven't seen this movie. I'm like, what does that have to do with me having a channel? Like talking about movies. Is it a requirement
You should
to
respond. Have you seen SummerSlam '97? Like, do you
yeah.
even know?
do you even know? But yeah, it's like, do you have to see every single movie ever made to start a YouTube channel to talk about movies and physical media? No,
No.
you don't. So I always find that kind of ridiculous, but I'm trying to catch up. So, I mean, there's no way you can watch every single movie ever made.
No.
Yeah, I heard you and James talking a couple days ago about how there's like 500,000 movies or something.
Yeah, he did the numbers. Like,
y'all looked it
I
up.
don't want to.
Like that stuff kind of hits you, and it's like, damn, it's like, even if I wanted to do this and try to really see every movie ever made, it's impossible. It's never going to happen. The only thing you can do is try to see as much as you can. So, and I found myself recently, like I just don't rewatch a lot of stuff. Like I haven't rewatched a lot of my favorites because I'm so into just watching new things I've never watched before. And I think it's important to have a balance of that, because to definitely, remind yourself why you love movies to begin with, and kind of get back into those older movies that kind of helped you fall in love with with the art form. So every now and then I find myself, I like to go back and watch some stuff that I know that I love, like Jurassic Park the other night.
Well, that's what
was a really nice experience.
Help. I feel like.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. Yeah,
well,
they definitely, I love experiencing these movies through like physical media. It helps keeping you, organized, and like, okay, I have to watch these movies this week because this is what came out. And it's always a nice variety of stuff. So
yeah, that's a spice of our community. I love so much about it, and I agree. I like that balance of exploration of new things and recommendations, and then also reliving all those films that really kind of the reason why we got into these things in the first place, right? So
yeah. But yeah, I definitely find myself diving into more new stuff. I feel like I was always kind of played it safe. I would only watch stuff that I knew that I would like, and I'm definitely like experimenting a lot more now.
Well, it's good. You're in the right space.
Yeah.
Speaking of favorite films, though, do you have a few that you you go to a lot?
Trying to think of the ones I go to a lot. I watch I love comedies. I really love comedies. So if there's ever a moment where I'm not diving into something new I've never watched before, it's usually a comedy. Like I'm a big fan of, Office Space and the comedies. I'll say this, I know a lot of people are fans of comedies from the 80s and the 90s, but I'm a huge fan of the 2000s comedies.
There's some good ones.
There's that to me is like the best decade, but I was in my teens and 20s in that decade, so that might have something to do with it. But I love like a 40-year-old virgin, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Knocked Up, like those super bad. Like if I see those on Netflix and I'm like trying to wind down for the night, I'll throw it on just randomly. So those are like my comfort movies.
They're great. I remember watching those over at people's houses and sleepovers, and just like those are great hangout movies, right? And so good memories. At least I think so too.
Yeah, but it always makes me sad when I'm watching them. It's like they don't do comedies like this anymore. Maybe they just don't do comedies that speak to me specifically, I guess. I know they do comedies. I'm sure people think they're funny, but
yeah, we're just becoming curmudgeons, right?
It feels like the last good comedy that came out with was I Love You Man, which I also love. It's like one of my favorites.
Slap at a bass.
And that was 2009. So
wow. Did you ever watch The Other Guys?
That was Will Ferrell.
2010, so a year later, but Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg.
I have seen it, and I do have it on Blu-ray, but I haven't rewatched it. I remember liking that one.
That's one of my favorites. So
yeah, that was the Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock thing in the beginning of the movie where they jumped off the building.
Spoiler,
Michael Keaton was in the movie.
He's the police detective, and also
I love Michael Keaton
of Bath and Beyond.
Yeah, they've definitely come out with some good ones. But I watched the Lost City this morning with my wife, with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock, and I'm just like,
my mom wanted to go with me to that.
It's like they're trying to be funny and cute, and Channing Tatum's actually got some pretty good, comedic timing and stuff. And Brad Pitt's in the movie, and he's pretty good, but he's in such a small part that I was just like, I wish Brad Pitt was in like this entire movie. But yeah, it's it's okay, but it's just like,
yeah,
it's
so
not funny.
Yeah, well, Brad Pitt, he's coming back home, which is where I'm at, Springfield. So this is where he's from.
Is he?
He's from where I'm at. Yeah.
Was he coming back home for good?
Oh no. Is he
coming for like a tour?
When he comes here, it's all hush hush. Like nobody knows about it. So,
I would say so.
He definitely. We see his family around town, like occasionally. Springfield's not a small city, but it's not a big city either. So it's pretty well known. People.
Are you in Springfield? What, Illinois?
Missouri. Yeah.
Missouri.
So, but yeah,
I think there's a Springfield in every state.
Yes, and we try to figure out.
I'm pretty sure I have one here.
When the Simpsons movie came out, we were really gung ho on thinking we were the town.
See, I always thought it was Illinois.
Yeah.
I always thought it was Illinois.
That's the biggest one, I think, because it was the cap. Right? Is it? No, wait. What's the capital of Illinois? Shoot, I know.
Don't ask me.
It's not Springfield.
I'm filling my head up with too much movie knowledge. All the old knowledge I learned when I was a kid just
all the wrestling
evaporated.
There. Wrestling knowledge.
Chicago, is that right?
Chicago, Illinois. Maybe. I don't.
It's
think
not.
so.
It's not. It's something else.
But anywho, pardon our geography, everyone who's watching this. A little sidestep.
What do you got? A movie channel? You don't know your geography? Get out of here.
Come on. Yeah, write that in the comment section, everyone. Any other besides comedies, like go-tos that you like classics or anything?
Star Wars. I love Star Wars. Recently it's kind of made it hard to love Star Wars with some of the more recent films, but I do love the originals, and I like the prequels, from time to time.
They're fun. Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, I know you're a big fan of Lord of the Rings. You got those editions behind you.
I have all of them. Yeah.
I hadn't watched those movies for like 10 years, but me and my wife's a huge fan of them. When we started dating, she was a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and we rewatched them last year with our kids, and I'd just forgotten how good they were. And those are definitely like some of my favorites now, because I was always like, yeah, Lord of the Rings is good, but Game of Thrones is just, it's so much better. And it's like after I see that, it's more like adult fantasy storytelling.
Right.
It's like I don't need to go back to Lord of the Rings, but they're really great films, and I loved watching them. But I would say horror, like the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th, and you know the Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm trying to think of the other big
the one
franchise.
that's not released yet. So.
Yeah, I definitely go back to from time to time. I love watching the Friday the 13th stuff, but like I said, I just in the past couple of years, I just don't find myself going back to those older movies unless it's like tied to a new physical movie release. Like I got to revisit all the Back to the Future movies, which I also love when the 4Ks came out. And yeah, so that there's some Marvel movies I like, but I just don't return to stuff as often, I guess, as I used to.
It's harder to do that. And I'm sure people who are watching this understand that very much as well. I mean, if you have a collection and you keep adding to the collection, it's only going to be harder and harder for that to happen.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some good answer. I'm sure there's something back there I pop in frequently, but yeah, I just can't think of one.
That's all good. Any particular actors or actresses that you enjoy?
Yeah, this is always a tough question too. I mean, I've always loved Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio, and here recently, because I've been watching so many films I had never seen before, like Robert De Niro. I've seen a lot of new films from him. Al Pacino, definitely kind of more realizing their greatness with like The Godfather and Dog Day Afternoon. I watched
great movie
last year, and that was great. And Scarface I watched for the first time last year, so I feel like I've been filling in a lot of Pacino gaps over the past year or so.
He's an excellent actor.
He's definitely developed into one of my favorites. James Stewart is climbing up there with some of my recent watches of him. Like I just watched Rear Window and
one of
The
my
Man Who
favorites.
Shot Liberty Valance, and pretty much everything I've seen him in, I've loved him in. So I know there's yeah, that's great. Vertigo I watched, I can't remember because it was like 3 or 4 years ago. And I think it was the first James Stewart movie I'd ever watched because I'd never even seen It's a Wonderful Life until like 2 years ago. So I don't even think I realized the greatness of his performance in Vertigo because I didn't realize who he was. I just watched him as like an older actor.
Who's this guy?
Like I know who James Stewart is, but I didn't, really recognize him as a good actor. So yeah, he's definitely one of them. I'm trying to think of something else I watched with him in it recently. I need to watch. He's in so much. Like when you look at his film, I could honestly do an entire month on him.
His westerns are really great. I mean, obviously, Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is a good place to start, but Naked Spur, Winchester 70. I think he might be in that one. 73. Destry Rides Again. That's really great.
Yeah. I'm going to do a Western month part 2, and I'm going to place it right after the Criterion sale because there's a lot of Westerns I want to buy on Criterion. I'm going to get them then.
Well, those are good choices.
Yeah, actresses is always hard for me. I definitely love Kathy Bates. She's always been up there from like, Misery and Titanic. I think she's great in. I grew up watching Fried Green Tomatoes too. I've always liked her in that. I think she's a great actress.
I haven't seen that in forever.
I think it is on Blu-ray, I believe.
It's a normal release.
Yeah. And then, The Office she was on. I thought she was great on The Office. Catherine O'Hara's always been a big actress for me. She was in a lot of movies, growing up. Grace Kelly, I love her in the 2 movies I've seen her in. But she's definitely, one of my favorites too. So.
Well, those are excellent choices. So I guess the natural transition there is directors. I'm assuming Hitchcock, maybe?
I don't know if I could put Hitchcock up there yet.
Okay.
I don't feel like I've seen enough. But I mean, I love Psycho. I did love Rear Window. I didn't love North by Northwest. I'll say that. And I didn't love Vertigo either. But I might need to give them another shot someday.
Well, I'm with you on Rear Window and Psycho. Those are
Rear Window I loved, and
that's one of my favorites.
To Catch a Thief I loved too.
When
I watched that. So I would definitely say it's always hard not to say Spielberg. I mean, he's just he's the top of the mountain. Scorsese, I definitely enjoy a lot of films from him as well. I don't know if I'd put him in my favorites because there are some that I don't like as much, I think, as some other people do. Tarantino, I'd have to, put in there. I think pound for pound, when you're just going by his filmography, that I love all of his movies. So
Yeah.
he hasn't made as much as everybody else, but like every single one of his movies is a hit for me. So
I've still not seen. Is it Planet Terror? Did he do, or is it
the
Grindhouse?
Death Proof.
Death Proof. Okay,
That's
so
the one with
Planet
Kurt
Terror was
Russell.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other one was Rodriguez who did the other. I always flip those around because
I mean, it's a little schlocky, and it's supposed to be that way. Like
right,
it's
of
more
course.
of it's his like take on a horror movie, pretty much. But Kurt Russell is so good in that movie. Kurt Russell, I forgot to mention him. He's definitely one of my favorites. Like
Well,
I
Jack
love
Burton.
him. Yeah, everything. Big Trouble in Little China is another gap for me. I haven't seen that
Oh,
one.
you need now
I've
watch
seen
that with
parts of it here
watch
and
it with
there, but I haven't watched it in its entirety.
watch it with other people around you. It's a fun movie to watch
Yeah.
with people. Yeah,
Yeah, but the movie I watched with him last year was called Unlawful Entry with him and Ray Liotta, and it's like a movie I'd never heard of. Somebody recommended it to me, and I was just like, "Oh, it's on Tubi." Just randomly one night, it's like somebody recommended this to me. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll just watch it, and that movie was great.
I hadn't heard of it.
It's like a thriller, but Ray Liotta and Kurt Russell are great in it. So, but yeah, what we're talking favorite directors. Yeah, John Carpenter's probably up there. You're going to talk about, even though I haven't seen Big Trouble in Little China, I've seen pretty much everything else he's done.
Right.
Definitely gets a little shaky when you get into the 90s and the thousands with Carpenter, but I think In the Mouth of Madness was probably his last great film.
Still a big hole for me. I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's fantastic. I definitely recommend that to anybody. But yeah, Tarantino he's top notch. It's hard for me to always rank his films because I just love them all so much. But I'd probably, at the end of the day, I'd go with Pulp Fiction as my favorite.
Mine's Hateful Eight, which is a weird one for people.
Hateful Eight is so good. It's underrated. I love it. Yeah, I definitely get the love for it. I love those, single location type movies. I'm trying to think. I know there's another good answer. I wanted to say Wes Craven, but like there's some Wes Craven movies I just can't get in on. Like I don't like The Hills Have Eyes that much or Last House on the Left, but I definitely like, Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream.
And New Nightmare?
New Nightmare I love.
Yeah.
I do love New Nightmare. But that's, there's a lot of new directors I like a lot. Like Robert Eggers for The Witch and Damien Chazelle. I love Whiplash and La La Land. First Man was pretty good, but I wouldn't put it in that.
It's not. Yeah, I'm in the same boat there.
But Whiplash is probably my favorite movie that's come out in like the past 10 years. I love that movie. I rewatched that one so many times, like when it came out. So
it was your tempo, right?
It was definitely my tempo. That movie's awesome. La La Land was a really big film for me and my wife. We kind of saw that randomly. We weren't like huge into musicals, but we both loved it. We saw it on New Year's Eve. And
oh, wow.
It was like going into midnight when we were watching it in the theater.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great like theater experience. It was a real big movie for both of us. We still watch it together sometimes.
I also am a little bit on the not so much on the musicals. I'm okay with them. Like I'm just not big on them. But La La Land was the one I think I would consider that the film that really kind of changed my mind on it. So
it's a very accessible musical. It's not like every 5 minutes they're breaking into song. Like
right.
It's broken up a little bit. But yeah, I love that movie.
I love that you have that good memory with it too. So
yeah, it's always makes it a little better when you have a nice memory attached to it.
Yeah. I guess the next transition here would be if you could choose a director to work with, if you were able to be in any of these directors' films, even as just like, it doesn't have to be the lead, it can just be someone in the background. Who would you choose to be in their film?
Could it be somebody that's still alive?
Yeah, sure.
Or I mean, dead. Obviously, if
they're still alive. Like, well, I don't know. I might have to. I don't know. That's breaking the rule a little bit too much. Has to be dead.
Trying to think. That's a tough question.
I should start changing it up and say.
I mean, it'd probably be pretty cool to be in a Tarantino movie, as long as he doesn't make me have to show my feet off or anything like that. He doesn't want to do any weird feet stuff with me or anything.
That's fair. I think you'll be safe. but if you're just an extra,
Well, you know what? On second thought, I'll be a foot model in a Tarantino movie.
okay.
I'll put my feet up on the steering wheel.
You know what? I'm
for
glad that you
Tarantino.
got the confidence there. I think you'll make it, man. I think you can get it.
I think I'll get there. But yeah, it would definitely be. I would definitely want to be on a horror movie if I was in any kind of movie. So I'm trying to think of like a current horror director, maybe Mike Flanagan or something.
Oh wow, yeah, Mike Flanagan's
that's definitely another great director. I don't know if you're familiar with Craig S. Zoller, who did Bone Tomahawk and Dragged Across Concrete,
Brawl and Cell Block 99.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite movies from the past few years too. I'm trying to think of just a solid horror director that works now. Mike Flanagan's probably the top of the heap. I think.
I agree with that.
Just between his like TV shows and movies, he's very like prolific as well. Like he's always coming out with something. I think like every single year, like whether it's a TV show or a movie, he's really been grinding stuff out.
Yeah, and I have some friends who have been in close proximity and has screened some of his work, some of his TV stuff too, and they just say he's like the nicest guy. So I'm happy to hear that, and to hear that he's prolific and he's just constantly working. But I feel like he's very he definitely has a good openness to him. I think that really kind of showcases who he is. So
yeah, I think when you're like that as a filmmaker, you probably bring out, some of the greatness of your actors and stuff that they might suppress around, other directors that aren't like that, aren't as nice.
Yeah, like Hitchcock, right?
Going back all the way. I guess it could work on the flip side, but you might have to do 80 or 90 takes like Kubrick did with Duvall.
Ooh. So not Kubrick, huh? So.
Kubrick is he's another one. He's kind of like Tarantino, where hasn't done as much as everybody else, and I just don't think I've connected to a large enough percentage of his work to call him my favorite. I love The Clockwork Orange and Full Metal Jacket and The Shining.
So the messed up ones.
The best of the best. 2001 is visually one of the best looking movies I've ever seen, and it's definitely a stunning film. But I can't. I couldn't connect to it as far as
And that's totally
the character I connected to the most in that movie was only in it for 30 minutes, and it was Hal, the robots.
Yeah, so, he's definitely the most delightful character in that movie.
When he got taken out, I was like, damn it, it's the best part.
It's the comic relief.
Yeah, that's another one I need to revisit at some point. Eyes Wide Shut, I'm not a big fan of either.
I surprisingly really like that film, but
a lot of people do. Everybody loves that. I seem to be in the large minority on that one.
You're definitely, your eyes are open. So on this particular,
I'm loving the puns, man. I'm loving them.
Well, I also teach, so I have to keep it out there. All right, this is a hard one. If your life was a movie, what would the title be?
If my life was a movie,
what would you title your movie? The movie of you?
Always Tired.
Amen. Cheers.
Yeah, I need to get that tattooed on my eyes, like Post Malone. I think it is.
I'm tired
because I'm so woke.
You're not. No, you're asleep. You're not woke.
I'm sound asleep. My life was a movie. Yeah, that is a tough one. That's a tough one. Yeah, tired is probably the best word.
Tired. Get tired. I like it. It's gonna be. Is it a comedy? Or is it?
Obviously, my life could be nothing else but a comedy at this point.
That's good. Get tired. Well, you're gonna be singing a new tune where you're saying the 2000s comedies were your favorites. Like, well, maybe the 2010s are gonna be where Get Tired comes out, and you'll have your own script and
Get tired. Yeah, I could come up with a better title. That you should have sent me that one ahead of time.
I know.
I'll text it to you when or I'll message you when we get out of here. The better title. Maybe
If we get it,
can insert it in.
I'll put it in the
actual.
Yeah, I'll put it in
the
the
actual
link.
video.
I'll just title it this the whole. I'm not even saying film journey. It's it's the title of
just title of my life.
I like it. Yes, that's your homework for today. Yeah. I didn't know I was going to give out homework, but
I wish it could be something cool, like notorious or something.
Just one word answer. It's very mysterious, but also vague, right?
Could I just do a number? Could I do like 75?
75
in my life. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I guess I'll do 85. That was the year I was born.
85. That's a good one.
Yeah, so there's meaning there.
Well, I have 23 would be my title if I did a number, but then there's the number 23, which I don't really want to associate with. So, but
classic Jim Carrey movie.
Classic. Everyone. I mean, that's the one that everyone always goes to. The number 23.
Yeah.
Like, I really love Eternal Sunshine. The number 23. Yes, Man.
And Fun with Dick and Jane. Did you watch? You probably didn't, because you sound like a man of taste and
dignity, I have Kung in my collection. So
have you ever seen Dark Crimes?
I know about
Dark Crimes.
I remember,
and it was so bad. I think I gave that movie like a 0 stars on Letterboxd or something.
I don't think I've given anything a 0 star.
It was awful. And recently he said he was retiring after Sonic 2, and I'm like, so he's made Dark Crimes and 2 Sonic movies. I'm like, it's probably bet for the best, unless you're doing Sonic 3.
Well, he'll come back for a paycheck for Sonic 3. Who knows?
Sure.
We'll see.
Let Jim take a break.
Yeah, let him just retire back in Canada, right? All right. So as we're wrapping this up, the final question I always like to ask is, how has the medium changed your perspective or your worldview or outlook on life?
That's a tough one too. I mean, it definitely helps when you're experiencing like different stories from different points of views that you haven't been, a part of for your entire life. So I would say having those experiences through the eyes of like characters and stories definitely changes your perspective of just what you thought you knew before. I don't know any other way to put it, but you grow up. I feel like when you're younger, and some people this never changes, obviously, if you go on the internet, but when you're younger, you have a very narrow viewpoint of what life is and what you're supposed to do. And as you have these different experiences through movies, you kind of see things from just different angles. And I'm a person that when I hear something or hear, about an issue or, what's going on in the world, I'm always trying to look at things through both sides. And I feel like that kind of, helps me kind of form my own point of view on it. I never like to approach things from, oh, this is absolutely right or this is absolutely wrong. I'm always like, well, why is that wrong or why is this right? And a lot of people don't really have that ability. They just kind of pick a side and here's my torch and there you go. But
easier to do that, unfortunately.
It is, but in some ways, to me, like maybe this is just my personality, that feels like it's harder to do than anything to pick a side like that. But so I feel like by experiencing more movies and more different types of, different directors from different worldviews and different walks of life, it just helps me kind of better form my opinion on my own life and what I need to do and the kind of person I want to be.
Well, I always have a hard time, coming back right after I ask that question, because like, what do you say after that, right?
Yeah.
But excellent. I'm glad that you interact with it that way. I think that's a positive thing, and I think we're just going to keep on going and with this thing that we love, and hopefully it's. I love that. At least for me, I always kind of just check myself within kind of where I'm at in life, and then when I'm watching something, it's like I have a completely different opinion 5 years from now or 5 years ago, right? And that's
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope that's normal for everybody.
No, I feel like I'm constantly changing with how I think and how I feel. It's like even from 6 months ago, I can feel like one way about something, and now I feel completely different. So
Yeah.
it's weird. Kind of makes you feel like you're being a little bit of a hypocrite about things sometimes. Like, well, I thought this way and I said this 6 months ago, but now I'm coming back and saying this and it's different. But it's just, people change and your mindset is constantly changing. I think that's a good thing. I don't think anybody should be set in their ways for any, length of time.
No.
But that kind of goes into, you said you're a teacher. What I do is I'm a manager. I'm a supervisor in a warehouse. So I'm always trying to mediate certain situations between people. Like conflict resolution has always been a big part of my job. So when two people have an issue, you always have to kind of jump in and get both sides of the story and figure out like, all right, where did this thing go wrong between these two individuals?
I hope film has helped with that at least a little bit.
Look, it does. And people can say it's silly. It's like, oh, I watch movies all the time or something like that. And they can make light of, the thing that you enjoy doing, but it definitely helps, experiencing all of these different stories. And there's some brilliant filmmakers that can really convey some really great messages and themes through their art form. I mean, even the stuff that you think might be, schlocky B movie material sometimes will surprise you with some hidden messages in there.
Some nuance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck with future endeavors of conflict management, and I also I'm a part-time teacher, so I'm also a supervisor in my full-time job, and so I also have to delegate that a little bit and to mediate.
It gets tough. I ain't gonna lie. There's sometimes I'm just like I'm just done with this.
Get out. Just both of you leave me alone. Like, stop acting like children. Get over it.
It's really crazy sometimes.
But
really crazy.
Do you have any final thoughts on anything?
No, man. I just I really appreciate you having me on. This was a fun time talking about movies and physical media. It's always pretty easy because I love both of those things. So
I hope everyone who's watching at home also does. We do. So
I hope so, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Look
at all the stuff. This is all cardboard. There's nothing. There's nothing.
I'm just imagining you when we get off, just taking down all the cardboard pieces and
just like I don't
putting
know,
the china back up on the shelf.
Put all my because I have actually that's my next big thing. So you heard it here first, right? Ken, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, you can find me on my channel, MidLevelMedia, and I talk about Blu-rays and 4Ks until my face falls off pretty much. I tried to, I talk about Blu-rays and 4Ks, but I also like to just use physical media more or less as a way to talk about the movies themselves. And I just love experiencing like new movies and stuff through the lens of these awesome new physical media releases that we're getting. I just think it's super cool. And that's mostly what I do on my channel. So if you guys want to, you can find me MidLevelMedia, YouTube, Instagram. I've done a short stint on TikTok.
I'll try to find it.
Twitter, I've gotten on there a couple of times. I don't really spend too much time on Twitter. So mostly Instagram and YouTube, pretty much.
Instagram and YouTube. So
Letterboxd as well. I got a Letterboxd.
Yes. I'll be putting all those links down there for everyone to check out. And I want to say thank you so much, Ken, for coming on. It's been a blast. I didn't expect the bagging and wrestling and and all later on the China that I'm going to have to put back up on the shelves. So my next venture.
Always expect the unexpected with me, man. It's going to go in some weird places when you have me on here. Always.
Well, I appreciate it. And I hope everyone enjoyed this film journey. And I hope you can check out Ken's channel, and then also, just follow along for more film journeys because, we're going on with more. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, everyone who's watching this, in the comment section down below, and give it a like, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.